What's up, people? I'm Shaggy, the Opinionated Hippie, continuing my deep dive into ZZ Top's studio catalog. I already made my first video, which was just the 70s albums, the classic 6 from the 70s. Now I'm going to do the 9 from the 80s and beyond, the not so classic 9, though one of them might be an absolute classic. Yeah, I'm just going to talk about these albums from 9 to 1, and then I'll put the list up on the screen when I'm done, and then I'll incorporate that list with the list from the 70s. I have these kind of grouped into 3 little groupings when I think of these in my mind. And the first grouping, which is going to be 9, 8, 7, and 6, are the 4 albums that they released after Eliminator, their big smash hit from the early 80s. I like Eliminator. I'm not going to talk about Eliminator till way towards the end of this video. But unfortunately, Eliminator was so successful that it kind of shaped ZZ Top's sound for the rest of their career. And for the 4 albums that immediately followed, I think it shaped it for the worse. I think almost all 4 of these albums have the same problems, the same issues, a lot of just saturated production. It's just so much going on, both from having effects on the drums, and it seems like the bass has been messed with, and the vocals are sometimes tweaked, and the production is just full. It's overwhelming at times, it seems. And there's this really, really big sound that doesn't always work. When they there are moments on each album where they kind of like clean it up and stream it down, and those things kind of jump out. But the thing with all of these albums is anytime Billy Gibbons steps up and starts soloing, you're like, okay, maybe it's worth it because this guitar playing is really, really good. So the highlights of almost all these albums is when Gibbons steps up and plays guitar. At number 9, I have Rhythmine. Their 12th came out in 1996. It's just, the playing is always great. It's just the songs are not that good. I want to like this album. There's a lot of really good energy. But it's kind of very aggressive. The songs really just kind of don't go anywhere for me. The opening track, Rhythmine, it's just like this gritty mid-tempo rocker. Bang Bang, we get a grittier blues rock sound. There's a nice vibe, but the lyrics are like, she bang bang my shang-de-lang. We have issues with the lyrics. Black Fly just starts off with some bad drums. The sound is horrible. What's Up With That? The title has more sass than the song. If you call a song What's Up With That, you need to bring more sass. Really, the only song that really steps out at me on here is Vincent Price Blues, which is this slow kind of grinding blues riff. We get a Whataburger reference. Shout out to Whataburger. They got some good breakfast tacos, relatively speaking. Zipper Job, things about, gender surgery and a lot of like wordplay around that. Hairdresser, a gritty blues song about a hairdresser. Like that's what it's about. She's Just Killing Me. It was used in From Dusk Till Dawn, interestingly enough. Some nice guitar playing. The song doesn't really do much for me. My Mind Is Gone has some nice little moments in it. Loaded is a bluesy rocker. Pretty Head is a gritty blues with some lyrics. And then Humbucking Part 2 has some more weird electronic drums. Kind of like a lesser version of My Head's in Mississippi, that kind of vibe. Doesn't work too much. There's just not much. Some good playing, some good Billy throughout here. But easily my number 9 is Rhythmine. My number 8 would be the album, their 10th album. The 11th, the one between 10 and 12 is actually a little bit better, is Recycler. This came out in 1990. This would be my number 8. It's kind of the same thing. They're just kind of recovering the same old ground. The title, I don't know how you name an album Recycler when you're kind of literally recycling the same ideas that you were using on the previous 2 albums. It's never a bad album, but I don't think it's ever great. Concrete and Steel, sort of a Sharp Dressed Man Redux type riff. Not bad, but nothing new. Love Thing, okay, ZZ Top Rock. Penthouse Eyes, okay, ZZ Top Rocker. Tell It, little calmer, poppier vibe. My Head's in Mississippi, which I really like. It's by far the most interesting thing on here. Some good lyrics in there, a really nice Gibbons solo, a Howlin' Wolf reference, which is pretty cool. Decision or Collision is sort of a You Got Me Under Pressure redux. Give It Up, kind of a Legs, kind of sounds like Legs. 2000 Blues, slower blues number. A bunch of 80s sounds that don't work. Burger Man, we're barbecuing burgers as a metaphor for sex, your typical ZZ Top stuff. Interesting line, once you try my burger, you'll grow a new thyroid gland. Not really sure what's up with that. And then it closes out with Double Back, sort of a mid-tempo ZZ Top OK rocker. My Head's in Mississippi, I think, is clearly the best thing on here. The other stuff works because it kind of sounds like stuff on Eliminator, if you ask me. We're literally recycling ideas, as the title says, recycler. That's my number 8. My number 7 in the 80s and on is Afterburner, the album that followed Eliminator, their big smash success. Afterburner has a couple songs that kind of work for me. Sleeping Bag, which has way too much electronic stuff going on with the fake drums, kind of works. Drums are horrible, but the solo is good. The middle groove is good. There's some highlights. Stages, awesome song. Very 80s, radio, ballad friendly, but it's a good song. Not sure it sounds like ZZ Top, but I think it's a good song. Woke Up with the Wood, we've now devolved into this sort of sexual innuendo for like maybe 2 or 3 songs on every album going forward. Not with the wood, Woke Up with Wood. Rough Boy, ballad, 80s ballad, doesn't really sound like ZZ Top, but it's got a nice laid back vibe. But the drums, the drums. Can't Stop Rockin', totally generic rocker. Planet of Women, generic ZZ Top rocker. This is like a reheated, gimme some lovin' meets TV dinner type vibe. I Got the Message, some really bad keyboard work on here. Another one that just sounds like a Flirts with Legs energy. Sounds like this like taking the TV dinner vibe of Eliminator and like taking these foods and like repackaging them and like reserving them, and where you just have to microwave them and they're ready to go. The TV dinners theme from Eliminator plays well with many of these albums. Velcro Fly, no. Drum intro, 80 cents. Do the Velcro Fly. I'm a no on that. Dipping Low in the Lap of Luxury, standard mid-tempo ZZ Top, Delirious. Closing rocker, your typical kind of closer, but the drums are horrible. Really bad 85 drum production. There are a couple good songs. It's not a complete waste, but that would be my number 7. Afterburner. And then my number 6 in this first group of 4 albums is it's the third out of these 4 released after Eliminator. It is their 11th album, came out in 1994. An Antenna. And I think Antenna is by far the most interesting thing. It's more interesting than Afterburner, more interesting than Recycler, more interesting than Rhythmine, which would follow. Still got production issues. The sound is just oversaturated. There's just way too much stuff going on. But there are some good songs in here. Pincushion opens up. He's just a pincushion. He gets nailed every now and then. Interesting little song. Breakaway, nice slow burner, really tasty guitar. World of Swirl, nice groove, but kind of going over the same ground. Fuzzbox Voodoo, just this really nice plot and bass groove that really works. Kind of some slinkier, snakier guitar. Girl in a T-shirt, kind of cool. It's got a fun little vibe, fun little riff that goes on, some nice slide work. It's probably the best thing they've done since maybe Stages on Afterburner. I just think it's kind of a catchy song. And Tan Head has got the line, got a pocket full of cornbread. Song about the radio, loving the radio. PCH, I don't know if you've ever been on PCH. I spent a good portion of my life living within walking distance of PCH, and then living maybe the first half of my life living within like a short drive from PCH. This is the Pacific Coast Highway. Just no matter where it is, whether it's driving up like you're like south of LA or you're west of San Francisco, you're up in the Oregon, it's a laid back, chill vibe. Fishing towns, beachers, surfers, even driving through Santa Monica. The PCH is like a little bit of like, you get a little bit of rest, right? You get a little bit of like laid backness. This is the most aggressive song about PCH ever. It just, I'm not sure ZZ Top was ever actually there. Cherry Red, mid-tempo rocker, nice guitar solo. Cover Your Rig, slower, more laid-back, slow burner. Always good with these songs. They're good with this kind of stuff. Lizard Life, OK Rocker, Deal Going Down. Kind of reminds me of like a Fine Young Cannibals type 90s rock number. It's by far the most interesting thing they did after since Afterburner, this album. But this would be my number 987, my number 6. And this run of 4, I think, are the least successful runs of albums that ZZ Top did. Is the 4 albums that followed Eliminator. But then things got interesting after this. So after that group of 4 albums, they have 3 more albums that they released before they retired, before they became no more, before Rest in Peace, Dusty Hill. Those albums, the first of those is the last one they released. It would be my number 5, 2012's La Futura, their 15th album. This is probably the most back to basic sounding album they have. There's a little bit of a big production. It sounds huge in the beginning, but as the album goes on, it feels a little more real and intimate. I don't know if intimate's the right word, but more like I'm in the room with these people playing and not listening to something that they did in the studio and then produce the heck out of. I think there's a number of good songs. The first song, I Got to Get Paid, just too much going on production-wise. But then Chartreuse, the next song, is this old school ZZ Top Texas boogie vibe that absolutely works. And that goes directly into Consumption, which kind of has a similar vibe, isn't quite as successful, but there's good energy there. Over You, nice slow blues ballad vibe. They're bringing it down. Okay. Heartache in Blue, nice harmonica. I Don't Want to Lose You, kind of a hard rock number. Nice, really just solid ZZ Top rock number. Flying High, really cool opening riff on this that doesn't even really sound like a ZZ Top riff, but it works. Once we get into the song proper, it sounds more like ZZ Top, but that opening riff is really cool. The guitar play is really cool. Then we get the sort of slow burning, not quite a ballad, but definitely more of a slower song. It's Too Easy Mañana, which is just great energy, has that laid back, cool vibe. The soloing is fantastic. Really strong song. Big Shiny Nine. Whoever's singing this is happy about his hippie queen. They talk about hippie queens and hippie women a number of times in their songs. The vibe is always off. I don't think they've ever met a real hippie, or they've maybe just seen them for all their love of hippie women. They don't really have a hippie vibe. That PCH song from the previous album, a lot of hippies on PCH. So it's interesting. They're singing about hippies, but not quite vibing on the hippie thing. I should know. I'm just gonna say I claim to be one. And then Have a Little Mercy. Have mercy. No, it's not that. But it's a little mid-tempo, early 80s ZZ Top vibe. Kind of a good song. Second half of this is stronger than the first. It's shorter than some of their more recent albums. I think it's under 40 minutes. There's something a little succinct, no nonsense, just they claim to be back to basics on a lot of the reviews. Like ZZ Top is a band that I've followed through years, and every time they drop a new album, I would read reviews, and there's like, oh, they're back to their basics. They're getting back. They never really are. There's always just this big sound. This one kind of feels a little bit back to the basics, which is why it's my number 5. Number 4 is the album that preceded this, Mescalero. This came out in 2003. This is their 14th. This one, it starts off aggressive and heavy and just that big sound. The songs don't maybe live up to the energy that they're bringing. Like, you just wish they had stronger songs because they really seem invested in this. But the album just gets weirder and weirder and weirder as it goes on. And as it gets weirder, that's a really good thing. Yeah, the opening Mescalero, we get some Spanish lyrics. We had a couple songs that have Spanish lyrics in here. Very over-the-top vibe, a lot going on. We get a little marimba percussion solo. There's like marimba going on for the entirety of this song. Frank Zappa connection there. Two Ways to Play, okay. A song called Alligator. Yeah, great use of the word alligator. Nice Gulf Coast honor and blues rocker right there. Buck Naked. Going So Good. Yeah, we get a slower song with some pedal steel, flirting with some legitimate country. Kind of going back all the way to the first song in the first album when we had a little pedal steel, and we kind of don't revisit that too often since. Excellent song. Me So Stupid, horrible name, but fun, funky vibe. It's got some good energy. Peace, big heavy blues rock sound. Punk ass boyfriend, kind of funky, some great guitar playing, almost has an Avril Lavigne vibe lyrically and just overall, but somehow it works. Um, Stacking Paper, more big sounding rock. What Would You Do? Kind of a country pop vibe. Interesting, though the vocals they mess with, even though the music is maybe more of a pure country pop sound, they still have to tweak the vocals a little bit just cuz. What Is It Kid has this sort of, or What It Is Kid has this sort of Peter Gunn meets Booker T type ZZ Top vibe that kind of works. Awesome. Slow Spanish ballad. Que lastima. What a shame, man. It just works. Nice, tasty guitar. Tramp. Tramp almost seems like it's just a jam. They're putting like some talking over it. Kind of reminds me of Funkadelic stuff in the 70s when the band would just jam and Clinton's just like, yeah, CC, it's just like narrating stuff. This is like ZZ Top's version of that. And it works. It's just kind of weird. It just seems like they're messing around in the studio and they just throw this on. Crunchy, another super weird song. It's got a weird intro, some weird sections, little proggy element in it. Dusted, really cool groove. Liquor closes out with this standard blues rocker with some harmonica. And then there's a cover of As Time Goes By on one of the re-releases that's just like a no. But it's a solid album. Still got the production issues, but it gets weird, and the weirdness is actually really good. So that would be my number 4, Mescalero, which means my number 3 in the 80s and beyond, the much maligned, way too maligned. I read reviews of this that said this was not a good album. I've never understood this. This is the one album I thought was like, this is fun. It's Triple X. Came out in 99. They're 13th. It's just a weird vibe. The whole album is weird. There's 8 studio tracks. The last, I think 4 of them are just like some of the most interesting stuff they've done post Eliminator. There's a bunch of live tracks. I think it's like 4 live tracks, including an intro. 5 live tracks. One of them's an intro. It's just an interesting album. Poke Chop Sandwich. Lots going on electronically, production-wise. Part of it I like, part of it I don't. There's like musical globetrotting lyrics that I think work. In the end, I'm kind of like won over by just the ambition of the song. Crucifix a Flat, another one where I'm just like, what? This doesn't even sound like ZZ Top. But by the end of the song, I'm like, you know what? There's a lot of weird stuff going on in this song. And by the end of it, I'm like, I'm kind of okay with it. There's even a little hip hop flavor kind of dusted on there, it seems like. Probably, I think the least interesting song on here, Fearless Boogie, which is like the most straightforward song on here, kind of a slower type, typical ZZ Top type jam. To me, this is the one where I like, nah, this is an album in which the production decisions and the stuff that they do they make what might be just normal songs or average songs a lot more interesting, a lot more better. For some reason, this just works for me. 32, 36, 22, 36, really nice bass groove. There's a lot going on. Really nice distorted guitar where it just seems to be like phasing out as he plays. It's absolutely awesome. Made into a Minute, that's not the name of this. I can't even read what I wrote. Whatever this song is, it's the 1, 2, 4, it's the 5th song. Excellent song. Slow burning, kind of clunky drums. It's got this weird sort of laid back vibe, but at the same time, the percussion is doing way too much, but it somehow works. It's intense, but it's uncomfortable. I wish I could read my writing, but whatever this 5th song is, it's great. Beatbox, kind of a frantic early new wave vibe that absolutely works. Short, intense fun. Trippin', kind of a Meat Puppets meets Queen of the Stone Age on Texas Acid type vibe. Really awesome works. Dread Mon Boogaloo, should be horrible. There's no reggae involved. The song absolutely works. It sounds like Ween with the drum machine on some Scotch Guard. There's even a line where they're like, this is art. Yeah, this is art. This sounds like a Ween outtake. This is like something you would find on Ween's La Cucaracha. It is just, La Cucaracha? No, that's not the one. Shinola. Yeah, you would find this on Shinola. And then we get the live stuff. We get an introduction by Ross Mitchell from Coast to Coast with Nori and Art Bell. Introduces them as the ZZ Tops. think that was a pre-recorded intro that was in front of all their shows. And then we get a reworked version of Pincushion called Sin Pusher that's really good. Kind of a little more, because it's live, a little more dialed down on the production, so it has kind of a cooler vibe. The only song I really don't like, a cover of Let Me Be Your Teddy Bear, which is just kind of Muddy Waters-esque blues. A song called Hey Mr. Millionaire, with Jeff Beck is on, some really great bass playing on this, some really weird synth work, and then a song called Belt Buckle, which has like a back porch kind of slinky jam vibe. Weird album, fun album, ambitious album. This is the one where I think, other than Eliminator, where I think the production decisions actually make these songs better and actually enhance them. And I like it. It kind of doesn't sound like ZZ Top at times, but other times it's the most fun thing they've done, I would argue. And that is my number 3, Triple X. And those last 3 albums, I think, were better than the 4 that preceded it. But anyways, yeah, on to number 2. Number 2 is 1981's El Loco. We pretty much start the descent into like sexual innuendos, and let's just do that kind of stuff. We got Tube Snake Boogie, which is a great song. Nice little ZZ Top groove. It's a fun energy. We also have, what else is on here? Pearl Necklace. My only complaint about Pearl Necklace, which I think is a great song, I love the pre-chorus, or maybe it's the chorus. I was getting boned and she was getting blown away. Whatever that part is, I love that part. And what a pearl necklace is, he's got the line where he says, she's not talking about jewelry. I'm like, man, really? You got to give away what it is. You can't just sing the song and not like say, oh, we're not talking about jewelry. I've never liked that line. As a kid, it was the first time I was like, what does he mean he's not talking about jewelry? I wouldn't have got it probably for years later if he hadn't thrown that line in. So I kind of wish he hadn't done that. Other than that, this is a pretty good song. I think maybe the 2 best songs on here have like this 70s soft rock vibe that maybe ZZ Top should have leaned into a little bit more. Opens up with Tube Snake Boogie, your sexual innuendo. 2 or 3 songs in every album from this point would kind of play with this genre. I Want to Drive You Home kind of flirts with I Thank You energy. Yeah, it could be about a car, could be about a girl. Don't know. Anyway, interesting laid back groove at the very end of this. It's kind of cool. Some nice slide work. 10-foot pole, got a funky off kilter groove. Nonsense lyrics, like literally, like, I don't know if it's like a dialect that we're supposed to understand, but it gets darker. Some interesting solos in here. Layla, awesome. Soft rock vibe. It sounds like a 70s soft rock song. I really like it. There's a little bit of like trying to hit a falsetto at sometimes that he really can't do. It works pretty well. Probably the weakest song on here, Don't Tease Me. Kind of seemed like it would have fit on Tejas, which is not one of my favorite albums. It's So Hard. Another soft rock song that just absolutely works. The chorus could be a Linda Ronstadt song from like the mid to late 70s. I don't know. I like this. Really nice, long sort of instrumental end to just kind of ride it out. Then we get the awesome Pearl Necklace. Then we get some weird stuff. Groovy little hippie pad. Weird little experimental thing with some keys. Not very hippie at all. Again, leading into their like, no groovy little hippie pad would have this as a soundtrack. Just saying. Though there is some tasty guitar. Heaven, Hell, or Houston, which is just kind of a moody little thing that exists. I guess it's a song. It's got this cool little middle section in the middle with this cool jam. And then Party on the Patio is just your end of the album party song. Sort of like your Betty Lou's getting married tonight type vibe. It's a fun album. It's a strong album. It's their early sound, dipping a little bit into synths, but we're not to full Eliminator mode yet. Kind of getting there, but not yet there. Yeah, it's a fun, solid, early 80s album, my number 2, which means my number 1 for the 80s and beyond is, I think it's well worth the praise and the hype and all that. It's Eliminator. I still listen to Eliminator. I still love Eliminator. Their use of synths and electronic drums and like whatever they did on here, it works on this album. Why? Because the songs are ridiculous. The grooves are ridiculous. The guitar solos are ridiculous. It feels loose. It feels jammy. It feels like you just want to hear Gibbons go off on these grooves for like way longer than he does. And he still has some pretty nice, well-developed solos. I remember I was going out doing the Grateful Dead summer tour in 91, and we were leaving Berkeley, and we were going to drive. I don't know. We were driving to Sacramento to hang out one night for like a party. So we were heading to Sacramento for the night. So we're leaving around like, I don't know, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the evening. And as we drove through the tunnel on 24 in the East Bay in Berkeley, and as we exited out the tunnel, we're like, okay, we're ready to go. We're hitting the road. Let's go. We flipped on the radio, and Give Me All Your Lovin' started with that drum beat, and it just felt like we were on the road off, and it was just an absolutely beautiful, beautiful experience. But great driving music. Opens up with Give Me All Your Lovin', awesome. Got Me Under Pressure, might be the best song on here, awesome riff. Got Me Under, some great lines. Flipping Out with Great Danes, a Zappa connection right there, Marty and his Great Danes. Sharp Dressed Man, that riff, that groove. I Need You Tonight, super slow down, cool, that cool laid back blues vibe that they do so well. I Got the Six, just a nice fun riff stomper. For all you math lovers out there, I got the six, give me the 9. All right, we're going to do some math equations here. Love it. Legs, awesome song. Thug, probably the one on here that feels like it doesn't belong. It's got a different vibe than the rest of the song, but the bass starts to get funky, and after a while, it kind of wins you over. TV Dinner, what a great song. It's literally a song about TV dinners. I think TV dinners were more of a thing back in the 80s than they are now, in a different way. Dirty Dog, just a tight rocker. If I Could Only Flag Her Down, another just absolute earworm of a song. And then Bad Girls, which has like a very live little Richard Rocker type. It is a solid album from start to finish. They should have been huge after this. They used 80s technology incredibly well. There's still a ZZ Top groove. There's still their energy. It is an absolutely, absolutely fantastic album. Easily my number one in the 80s and beyond. Eliminator. All right, so that is what they look like in typewritten form. We have those 4 that followed Eliminator at the bottom. And then to me, Triple X was sort of like a let's have fun, and we rediscovered something. And so those last 3 are pretty strong. And then you have those 2 first in the 80s, El Loco. And then Eliminator, I think, is far above all of these. I think that's a fantastic album. If I were to roll this list into all of the others that I did from the 70s, bam, Tres Hombres, still number 1. Eliminator number 2, Degüello, Fandango, Rio Grande. El Loco drops to 6. ZZ Top's at 7, Teos at 8, and then everything else after that, just right there, pretty much as it appears on the other list. But yeah, that's how I would rank them. That is my personal ranking. All right, that's all I got for ZZ Top. Let me know your thoughts on these albums, on my ranking, things I messed up on, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I think Triple X, that's the one that I think deserves more love than it normally gets. Also got a lot of love from Tejas in the comments for the 70s, and it's always been my least favorite of the 70s, but I'm interested to like just revisit that a couple more times, maybe with a little more open ears, and see if I can find a little more love for it. But yeah, but that's all I got. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, like, share, comment, do those things, and go listen to some ZZ Top, people. Eliminator. It's a classic 80s album. Peace. Talk to you later.